Ladies and gentlemen, I just love this. Trump legal team asks Senate for speedy acquittal in impeachment trial. The day before the trial starts, the president's lawyers assert he did nothing wrong and urge the Senate to swiftly reject the charges against him. Love it. Peter Baker, Maggie Haberman, January 20th, 2020. Washington. President Trump's legal team called on the Senate on Monday to swiftly reject the impeachment charges and acquit him, arguing that lawmakers would, quote, permanently weaken the presidency by removing him from office over what it characterized as policy and political differences. In a 110-page brief submitted to the Senate the day before his trial begins in earnest, the president's lawyers advanced their first sustained legal argument since the House opened its inquiry last fall, contending that the two articles of impeachment approved largely among party lines were constitutionally flawed and set a dangerous precedent. Mr. Trump's lawyers insisted that neither of the two charges lodged against Mr. Trump, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, is valid because they do not state any specific violation of the law. Exactly. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. That's exactly what I said in the segment prior to this one on this channel. They maintained that the accusations in effect seek to punish the president for foreign policy decisions and efforts to preserve executive prerogatives. Quote, they do not remotely approach the constitutional threshold for removing a president from office, the brief said. Now this is Ken Starr, Dershowitz, Sekulow, a whole bunch of great attorneys. Like, these are the same attorneys that were on CNN and MSNBC all the time. So the Democratic establishment definitely cares about their opinion on everything. Suddenly they say, oh yeah, you know, they're, of course, the Daily Beast. Cue the Daily Beast and Raw Story, and to a tiny extent they went after me. Like, I'm not as well known as all of these attorneys but you have the political machine and the public relations apparatus. They go after anyone they see as for me, I was like a tiny threat in 2016. I explained that on H.A. Goodman's other channel. Check out that segment. Oh, by the way, the New York Times also picked Amy Klobuchar and Cory Booker ahead of Bernie Sanders. Look, one problem though. Cory Booker suspended his campaign. So you're talking about cheating. I told you Clinton would be the nominee. Clinton's going to be the nominee. All of this is a slow process of overt cheating. I told you this. They picked a person who has suspended his campaign, okay, or who was about to suspend. They knew that he was going to leave the race, the Democratic contest. They knew that. So whether they picked Cory Booker ahead of Bernie Sanders and Warren and Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg, Bernie Sanders is ahead of all of them. Has always been ahead of all of them, has never not been ahead of all of them, and the New York Times didn't even pick Bernie Sanders as part of their top four, and they picked somebody that is no longer even there. Senator Cory Booker suspended his campaign. Anyway, I can go on forever about that. It's just, oh my God, it's so overt. See, 2016, he was cheated less than he is now. They don't get it, but anyway. Trump fights. I love that about Trump. He fights. 5 million people lifted out of poverty. 6 million jobs created. Oh, what's there not to like about President Trump's economy? What's there not to like about his foreign policy compared to President Obama and Bush? If you want more of a pacifist, that's fine too. Less of a military engagement, that's fine also if you want that. But in terms of reversing 16 years of failed foreign policy, yeah, what's there not to like? First president to step foot in North Korea. His achievements speak for themselves. You take away the maniacal, rabid imbeciles who obsess over every word he says and who forget. You could just draw a T-chart. I always say this. Things that Clinton has said and done, things that Trump has said and done in terms of race and bigotry and all that. Clinton is far more egregious, but Democrats have no moral compass. They have no moral vantage point. They forget what is inconvenient for them, and they harp and they spin and they manipulate The same people who said Trump said both sides are the same people who are saying, can you believe what corporate media is doing to Bernie? Yeah, corporate media was propped up by Bernie Sanders saying that Trump worked with Russia. Oh, and by the way, that didn't work out because they found nothing. They fabricated everything. Bernie was a part of it. Then corporate media is going after Bernie Sanders. Well, what did you expect? It's not like Bernie stood up to any of these people. Whether it's intelligence chiefs or MSNBC or the DNC, did Bernie stand up to any of them? Because Trump did. William Barr, John Durham, you can see. You can see how effective people are by how many hit pieces on them. You can see that. But anyway, let's just continue because this whole thing is part of a grandiose charade and facade. The Democratic Party is a political machine. But here, quote, the diluted standard asserted here would permanently weaken the presidency and forever alter the balance among the branches of government in a matter that offends the constitutional design established by the founders. Of course, you think the founding fathers would want any, they could say that, the Louisiana Purchase was an abuse of power. They could have said that. Okay, so Thomas Jefferson, Louisiana Purchase. That wasn't sanctioned by Congress. Okay, that wasn't sanctioned by Congress. He could have technically been impeached for that. That was unilateral. That was not sanctioned by Congress. Okay. Anyway, we can go on forever. You want to impeach presidents for unilateral actions that are not sanctioned by Congress. You could have impeached President Obama numerous times. He withheld military assistance in 2013 from Egypt. Okay. Without congressional authority after Congress had already approved the funds. Nobody said, oh my God, corrupt motive. So you can do that. Bush, all presidents presidents throughout time, throughout history have withheld assistance to other countries, have engaged in foreign policy, oftentimes unilaterally without congressional approval, which is, in terms of war, that's definitely, you don't want to do that. Okay, but unfortunately, Congress has not declared war since World War II. Okay. We have Gulf of Tonkin resolution with Bush's failed foreign policy interventions. So, but anyway, they are fighting back because they know very well that this has nothing to do with Trump's legal team knows this has nothing to do with an actual criminal act. Democrats say this is a criminal act because Trump didn't. He wanted to withhold military assistance. He withheld military assistance because he wanted to interfere in the election. They're making so many leaps of logic, these absurd leaps of logic. Well, he withheld military assistance because, he was afraid of the No Malarkey bus tour. And, how do we know this? Well, we don't have direct evidence, but you know what we do have? We have a lot of disgruntled, angry diplomats. And oh my God, those diplomats, they all agree. And John Bolton might agree with them too. But nobody has direct evidence. But come on, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You just have to connect the dots. Well, did Uranium One officials give money to the Clinton Foundation because they cared about philanthropy, or because they wanted to grease the wheels and greenlight the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity? Which one is it, Democrats? Oh, it's been investigated. Well, which one is it? Answer the question. Notice you'll never get an answer to any actual question. Well, why did Clinton use servers? Comey has already exonerated her. Well, why did she use servers? Any idea? Oh, was it to hide communication from the American people? I mean, I love the phrase "shampeachment." It's so hilarious. It's such a hilarious phrase because this impeachment will only serve to help President Trump get Biden out of the way because they'll subpoena Biden. He'll then refuse to testify. And then Democrats will, yet again, say, well, who do we turn to? Oh, that's right, Madam Secretary. 65 million people. Did you realize that 65 million people voted for Clinton? 65 million. 65 million. Oh, my God. And they're going to say that. Biden wouldn't even get the popular vote. Clinton might get the popular vote only because she has Hollywood and media. She only got the popular vote last time because she outspent Trump 2-1. Okay? But they're not going with Biden. They're not going with Biden. So, anyway, they can't prove anything with Trump because even President Zelensky states that there was no pressure. In their own detailed legal briefing submitted on Saturday, the House impeachment managers outlined their case against Mr. Trump corruptly solicited foreign interference. This notion of foreign interference is like an absurd, hilarious, sad, pathetic new era in American politics where Democrats can't win, so they just blame other countries for being linked to their corruption. So the DNC cheated Bernie, but we know this because Russia wanted us to know. And now, Biden was on his way to winning, but Trump, he solicited. He was out on the street soliciting Ukraine's president, even though President Zelensky stated there was no pressure. Poroshenko, his predecessor, the President Poroshenko, stated there was no pressure. Mr. Trump corruptly solicited foreign interference in the 2020 election for his own benefit. Why would it be for his own benefit if there was nothing going on with Biden? That's interesting. They're always showing like their cards. They're always showing that they have nothing. So, and they're always showing how frightened they are of their own corruption. Like, well, you're investigating Biden. How dare you? Well, there's nothing. I mean, if there's nothing going on, what's the problem? Don't you remember all those times that Democrats said, well, if Trump's acting guilty, he sure acts guilty. Well, Biden sure acts guilty. It's Democrats who began the notion that you have to prove your innocence. That's never been a part of any legal system. You have to prove your innocence. No, the burden of proof is on the prosecutor. The burden of proof is on the accuser. They haven't proved that he withheld military assistance because he's afraid of the No Malarkey bus tour, because nobody is. Nobody's afraid of Biden. And if you really look at, if it's Biden versus Trump, Biden gets completely obliterated. Bernie's going to be cheated. Warren is only there to harm Bernie Sanders. Why didn't she endorse Bernie in 2016 if she was so interested in running and making a change from that political vantage point? Oh, that's right, because she wasn't interested, because the whole thing's a charade and a farce. He withheld $400 million in military aid. They got the money. President Zelensky stated there was no pressure. There's no evidence that he withheld the money because of Biden. And, Biden should be investigated, because there are conflicts of interest there, and he actually implicates President Obama. So there you go. The whole thing is a complete and utter theatrical performance where, yet again, Democrats manage to deceive their voters with media, with intelligence officials, the intelligence nonsense is still with this, with the alleged intelligence operative who blew the whistle on Trump's corruption. This is all subjective opinion. This is all their opinion. This is not a fact. It is not written in any legal statute that investigating Biden is interfering in an election. That is a fabricated viewpoint. Okay, Biden is only number one in the polls, and he's certainly not Trump's direct political rival. Clinton is, But Biden is only number one in the polls because everyone else is unelectable in the Democratic Party. So the whole thing's a charade and a farce to begin with. I've been saying this for 3 years. They're propping up Biden just because he's the easiest to then say, well, we can't go with this guy. We have to go with Clinton. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Trump's legal team is brilliant. They're saying that they want a speedy acquittal. Trump's legal team demands a speedy acquittal. Why? Because there's no crime listed in the articles of impeachment. It's all the sensibilities of maniacal imbeciles, i.e. Democrats, who haven't proven with any direct evidence that Trump withheld military assistance because he's afraid of Biden. And Biden deserves to be investigated anyway. Give me your thoughts below. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. Great, powerful segment on H.A. Goodman's other channel. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. The link is below. Subscribe. The link is below in the pinned comment and the description. Get it to 15,000, then to 20,000. We're almost at 15,000 subs on that channel. I'm a little bit more myself on that channel, if you could believe that. Give me your thoughts. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below. Thank you.